Hello, my name is Robert Barr, and I'd like to talk to you about a concern that concerns us all. One of the great needs in our society today is among the elderly. 75 to 80 years ago, there were very few of them. Most people worked until they were no longer able to work or they died. They lived for a short while before they died. They made up a very small proportion of our society. Now, more and more, senior citizens are making up a growing proportion of our society. People are retiring early and living a lot longer. In addition, very few families are having very many children, so that our society is becoming top-heavy. Our society has about 1 out of every 4 people is over the age of 60. In some places in Europe, that's as many as 1 out of every 2. That creates a great crisis for a community. Formerly, the elderly had very few needs. They worked until they were no longer able to work. They'd saved up to take care of their retirement, and when their savings ran out or they were no longer able to take care of themselves, they had families or they went into a nursing home. Now, with people retiring early and living longer, resources are no longer adequate. Many people are retiring at 65 or even at 62 because of Social Security. Many of them want to retire while they're still healthy and able to enjoy it. In addition, they're living longer. Before, most people died in their 60s or 70s. Now they're living to 80, 90, even 100. In 1970, I met a florist who was telling about how he had met a woman who was 100 years old. He gave her a dozen red roses. After that, he began giving a dozen red roses to everyone who made it to 100. After a while, he had to quit because there were so many people reaching 100. Because of this long time of retirement, many families are exhausting their savings. In addition, many have no families. My grandfather was one of 14 children. That was not unusual in those days. When his parents retired, they had 14 children to help take care of them. When my dad retired, he had 3 sons. Me and my 2 brothers took over most of the care. Many families have only 2 children, 1 child, or many have none at all. In addition, because of mobility, it creates a problem. When I was growing up, we had what we called the ancient ones, those who were in their 80s and 90s. Most of them lived within a 100-mile radius. If they needed help, they had a large extended family to help them. When my parents retired, they lived in Michigan. I had one brother who lived close by, another brother who lived clear over on the other side of the state, and we lived deep in Ohio. So it made it difficult for the 3 of us to help them. Many people have children scattered all over the United States, some even all over the world. Because of the distance, they're no longer able to help them. With smaller families, it's creating a greater burden on those that remain. I'd like to tell you about the first stage. Stage 1 is what we call the snowbirds. They've just retired, they're healthy, they're able to go, and of course many of them go to Florida or Arizona for the winter, and so we call them snowbirds. They provide a great resource for the church. Many of them worked long hours with travel time. Now suddenly they have nothing to occupy their time. former days, many women stayed home, their husbands worked, and so oftentimes wives were the mainstay of the help in the church. Now many women themselves work, and so many churches are scrambling trying to find help. Oftentimes you do not think about those who are retired. Many of them were busy and now have nothing to do and are looking for something to occupy their time. If the church doesn't provide what they need, many of them will go out and seek help in the community or from the government. At the same time, they provide a great need. Many of us know that young people are on the verge of a transition in their life. They're making decisions that will last them for a lifetime. Many people forget that senior citizens are also making a transition. They are making decisions which will last them for eternity. When you're young, it's easy to not think about death. Children, teenagers, adults, it's the farthest thing from their mind. Oh, that's for old people. When a child or an adult dies, it often is traumatic because we often hate to think of that happening to us. But when you're 60, 70, 80, 90, you have heart disease, diabetes, cancer, death becomes very real to you. This stage in life may last for a year or two. It could last 10 years, 20 years, maybe even 30 years. The church can provide a great help during this time. It has a lot of mission opportunities. Many people find their pension inadequate in the United States. But if they were to go to Africa and South America, what is inadequate here is very much more than adequate there. In addition, the church has many opportunities to meet needs in its community. But the most important thing that it can do is helping people deal with the end-of-life issues. People are beginning to think, what will happen when I die? What will happen when I die? Many people have never thought about it before. But as you grow older, it begins to become very real. Your parents die, maybe even brothers and sisters die. And suddenly it becomes a burning question. As people live longer, it's putting more pressure on the family. With smaller families, many of them scattered, more and more of the burden is falling on one individual person. When my wife's father died, the entire burden for her mother fell on her. Fortunately, I have two brothers, but we are scattered, and so it took the combined work of the three of us to try and provide for their needs. One brother lived close by, was able to help them. When he moved out of state, then we had to move my parents closer to myself and my wife. In addition, living longer creates problems for the children who are taking care of them. Formerly, many of the people were in their 60s and 70s when they needed help from their children, who were in their 40s and 50s. They were still working, they were still healthy, and they were able to take care of much of what was needed. Nowadays, those who are needing help are in their 80s and 90s. Their children are in their 60s and 70s. Many of them are no longer working and have the financial resources available. Some of them may even have health problems of their own. In addition, our society is changing. Before, it was always the children who took care of the parents. But in an unstable financial situation today, Many children are coming home to their parents to be taken care of. They have a long-time job, suddenly they lose their job, they come home to live with parents. Now the parents are caught in the middle. They have their parents to take care of, and their kids. And so our generation has come to be called the sandwich generation, sandwiched between helping the kids and the parents. However, as people continue to live longer, the situation is getting even more desperate. Now those nearing retirement are having to take care of not only their parents, but their grandparents as well. Plus the fact they're not only taking care of their kids, they're taking care of their grandkids as well. Oftentimes the grandkids are married and have kids, and are bringing their kids home with them to live with their parents. So the parents are taking care of 2 generations above them and 2 generations below them. I like to refer to it as a double-decker sandwich. One of the big problems today is the fact that as families become more unstable and divorce becomes more common, oftentimes the parents are finding that their kids are taking off and leaving them with the grandparents. And so what we're finding is the fastest growing family demographic in the United States today is grandparents raising grandchildren. It creates a serious stress on those nearing retirement. Stage 2 begins when people are finding increasing health issues and mobility issues are making it difficult for them to get around and take care of themselves. These are the ones that we call truly elderly, where before they were very independent and able to take care of themselves, they begin to have issues. The government began to recognize this in the 1970s and began developing programs for them. I was fortunate to be available and was working with the government at the time to develop many of the programs. They developed programs to help with transportation, nutrition, socialization, and yard maintenance. Formerly, when people were no longer able to take care of themselves, they would go into a nursing home. It was very expensive. They didn't really need care, they just needed somebody to take care of them. As society has evolved, more have moved into trailers, mobile homes, and apartments, where they can live and have somebody else take care of their house. However, transportation and nutrition and socialization remain a big problem. The government realized that it needed to cut costs, and so it decided by providing these services, it would enable them, many of them, to stay in their own homes. However, the fact is that many of the funds are limited in space. Most of the funds are in high population areas where they can serve them well. I was able to help our county develop services out into the rural areas, and so we were able to reach 10 times as many people as surrounding counties. However, even at that, we were only able to reach about 50% of the county. However, churches can provide many of the services very inexpensively, and there are churches almost everywhere. When you count that their members are spread out as well, there's generally an elderly person who has a church member someplace close by. In addition, as their mobility declines, many of them are asking themselves more seriously, what will happen when I die? The government can provide for the physical needs, but it cannot answer the question, what will happen when I die? There's a great need for the church to reach out to seniors and help them deal with the problems that they face as they grow older. The church can also provide transportation, socialization, nutrition. Many elderly have somebody living close to them, a young mother perhaps, who could easily pick up things for them at the store when they go to the store. If the elderly person is able to take care of their kids while they go to the store, they will probably be more than happy to bring something home for the elderly person. Socialization. Many people in rural areas are not able to get to senior centers. However, their churches could have activities for seniors in their local area. Transportation would not be such a problem because they would be close enough to the church that many of them could get to the church on their own or have somebody bring them. By providing meals at the church, it would enable them to be able to eat together, enjoy the fellowship. One of the big problems with nutrition is the fact that people hate to fix something just to eat by themselves. Being able to eat with other people would make meals much more enjoyable. Yard help is a big problem. It is very difficult these days getting people to mow yards, rake leaves, shovel snow. Many people could use a great deal of help with this, and it would open doors to be able to minister to them. Stage 3 begins when people begin to need personal care. They don't need 24-hour supervision. They just need somebody to help them get up in the morning, get bathed, and get dressed. After that, they're fine. The government recognized in the 1990s that many people were going into nursing homes that didn't really need to go. They needed somebody to help them in the morning, but they didn't really need a whole lot of help. So the government began developing programs to provide home health care. Health care was expensive, and most people could not afford it. So the government began to provide a Medicaid program that would provide home health care for low-income families. Clients were happier because they were able to stay in their own homes. It was a lot less expensive because they owned their homes oftentimes or paid rent. All they needed was utilities and a few other expenses like food and so forth. Nowhere near the cost of a nursing home. The one problem is that services were often limited to large population areas. For instance, when I began in the 1970s providing home health care, I began in the 1970s providing home services such as nutrition, transportation. We began to look at how best to reach the community. Most counties had their facilities in the main county seat, and very little services were provided outside of the main city. We began exploring ways to reach out into smaller towns and cities. As a result, we were able to serve about 10 times the number of clients of any of the counties around us. Yet with even all of our services, we were only able to reach about 50% of the county. Another problem with it is it increases isolation. If they were to go into a nursing home, there would be staff around, and there would also be other patients. However, in their home, there is often nobody. The workers come in, provide a couple hours of service, and then leave. They spend large amounts of time to themselves. Socialization is a big need. Somebody who can come in and just sit with them and talk with them for a while. They also need mental stimulation, things to help them keep their mind active. Somebody to come in and play games with them. Oftentimes, a lot of elderly like kids. Their own grandkids may be far, far away. They may have never seen them other than in pictures. And they love kids. Kids at the same time also love senior citizens. Senior citizens have lots of time to spend with them, and they can concentrate on them. Oftentimes things that the parents can't. Senior citizens often like kids because they have plenty of time on their hands. And they don't have other things to do. They can just spend time just playing games with them, talking with them, and doing other things with them. Safety concerns are also a great concern. Oftentimes they're home alone. If something should happen to them, they have no way of contacting help. If they fall and are unable to reach the phone, they cannot call for help. Oftentimes when I work, I would get, for my clients, I would get a home health button that they could push if they needed help. If they were to fall or have other needs, they simply pushed the button and it would summons help. However, it doesn't provide socialization. One of the things I develop with some churches is where we have two senior citizens who will contact each other. One will agree to call the other in the morning and in the evening. And when they call, of course, then they can step up and chat, and do socialization. But if the first one calls the second one and the second one doesn't answer, then it may be a problem. And so they call somebody to go check on them. The second one at the same time is also expecting the call, and if the call does not come, then they can call somebody to call and check on the first person. It provides a double check. Neighbors can also do something where they can make an agreement where the senior citizen will put their blinds up in the morning and put them down at night. If the neighbor looks out and it's midday and the blinds have not gone up, then they have reason to go check on them. If it's late at night and the blinds have not gone down, then they have a reason to check on them. It provides a safety issue. Churches can often help with visitation. Oftentimes you have young, healthy senior citizens who are just retired looking for something to do, and they can visit the senior citizens, or they can call. Even shut-ins can participate in a phone bank where they call each other to check on them. It provides monitoring to make sure that something has not happened to them, that they have not fallen and need help, and no one knows it. Stage 4 begins when they begin to need 24-hour nursing care. They have no alternative but to go into a nursing home. Socialization and mental stimulation become less of a problem because there are other staff around, there are other patients around. However, it's still a big concern. Staff oftentimes are busy. Many of the other clients are in more serious condition than they are. And as they see other people and feed upon each other, they begin to feel worse. It's nice to have somebody young and healthy come in and visit with them who can share the activities of the outside world and who also can provide them with fresh information about life in general. At this stage, end-of-life issues become critical. When they first retire, they begin to think about, I'm getting older, what's going to happen if I die? As they become at nursing home level, they begin to think very seriously about it. It's a time when they need to really deal with these things about how am I going to take care of any assets that I own? How am I going to do other things that need to be done? The church can help with this by providing information. In addition, oftentimes nurses have chapels or rooms that can be used for chapels. Sometimes they have ministers who come in on a rotating basis. Other times ministers are not available and they could use help. In addition, it's nice to have somebody besides somebody just simply speaking. It's nice to have singing groups and choral groups come in and provide activities for them. In addition, there are many activities provided in nursing homes. However, nursing home staff are very short-handed. They can always use volunteers to help them with special games, parties, and other activities to provide stimulation for the clients. I hope this has been very helpful to you in understanding the needs of senior citizens and ways that the church can minister to them. I hope that it helps you to begin to find ways that you yourself can minister to your members and to the members of your community around you. I would like to thank you. Bye.